Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 398. Or if you're in the private group of mine, this is episode 597. So I hope you are well, and I'm carrying on with this podcast production that I did let go of for a while. Now, in this episode, I do want to talk to you about censorship, but the reason why is because it's something that we personally do. So what is censorship? Well, it's the suppression of information, or the suppression of not being able to say or do something. And we know that that's been in cultures around the world, countries around the world. Even today, we're experiencing lots of form of censorship from opposing viewpoints. And it is not for me to say what is good or bad when it comes to society. It's not for me to impress upon you, which would kind of be like suppressing in a way by saying, this is my point of view, and you having to accept it. And I want to stay clear of that. However, I want us to think of what censorship for self is. You see, each and every day, you will be censoring yourself. You will be censoring yourself in many different ways, from the fear of what people think, or how people would react, or if we share something, will it mean that we'll be vulnerable? Or maybe you could say that's the external, so being censored by the expectation of someone or something else, and that might not be something that we want to experience. It could be almost also the censorship when it comes to like the fear of failure. So we don't go and do the things that we want to do because of the fear of failure. What if it doesn't work out? What's going to happen? So we stay in our comfort zone and censor any possibility of doing the thing we really want to do. You see, we are ultimately our own biggest suppressors. We can say about the world or certain topics right now, which is absolutely true, but really when it comes down to lots of types of forms, we're suppressing ourselves on a daily basis. We're suppressing ourselves with our internal dialogue. We're suppressing ourselves by the emotions that we feel. Those emotions like anger, sadness, fear, guilt, hurt, frustration, shame can suppress and censor the things that we do. Maybe we experience so much guilt or hurt that we're like, that's it, I'm not going to do that. So we suppress ourselves from going into situations where that might occur. We can be suppressing ourselves and censoring in terms of our dreams and our goals. And I want us to be very clear. What are the things that you are censoring yourself on? What is it that you really want to do or be or have that would transform your life? And I want you to consider how you are suppressing that, how you're censoring it in your life right now. What is getting in the way? If we think of like point A and point B, point A is where you are, point B is the goal or the outcome or the dream or the thing that you want to become. What blocks are censoring you from getting there? What are we personally doing to stop ourselves? I really am a firm believer the only thing which really stops anyone is themselves. And I can understand why people would disagree with that, because they might have reasons as to why they cannot do something. But if we look throughout history, we've been told we cannot do things through censorship or suppression of certain topics and subjects and ways of being. But ultimately, there is always counter evidence where someone has broken through. So if we consider that as what are we really suppressing within ourselves, and what are those reasons? And to be honest, let's really discuss and dive into, are they legitimate reasons to stop you being you? Now, when you say it like that, you're like, well, yeah, they're reasons, but it shouldn't stop me being the authentic self. Because if I were to be the authentic self and I know that I've got a good heart, or I know that I've got the best of intentions, how could that possibly hurt oneself or someone else. So really, when we put it in that context, the reasons and excuses that we had to validate why we can't be, do, or have something seem to be shaken a little bit. We're almost thinking, well, maybe this is not true. Maybe I've been censoring my voice. And what I'd be saying to you is, look, if you have a voice, if you have something, well, people have fought for in the past, for you to have a voice. Well, let's put it in the context of you being the best version of you. Let's put it in the context of you being confident. Let's put it in the context of you being emotionally free to experience the variety of life and experience, to just have fun. I was saying on one of my private group coaching calls that I run just a week or so ago, and it was pretty much the point of, why not just have fun or experience joy for no reason at all? Like, what if that was just our way of being? And of course, I went into processes of how to do that, removing those limitations. But I want you to get right now, what would happen if we just had fun for no reason? If we just experienced joy for no reason at all, other than to experience it? You see, the emotions that we feel, even the blocks, there's something to learn from. There's something for us to experience and to validate or even honor. You see, if we're experiencing the fear of what people think, let's honor for a moment. Let's not repress it, because then we're just doing the exact same thing. We're censoring the thing which is censoring us. Very meta, I know. But if we were to honor the thing that we're suppressed by, which would be a limiting belief, negative emotion, a certain set of behaviors, ways of acting and reacting, if we just appreciate for a moment, what is the intention behind those things? Now, I'm sure that part of you which is censoring you or suppressing you being the best version of you is not doing it for any negative, crazy, bad reasons. More often than not, we go through certain events. Those certain significant emotional events had a lot of stress or a lot of extreme negativity sometimes, and then based on what we were feeling in that moment with not many options, we make a decision which then leads to a belief system or a decision to behave or a decision to feel something in very similar situations, and that can spread to other areas of our life. But if we just honor it for a moment and begin to bridge that gap, we can realize the thing which was trying to be censored upon ourselves, which is ultimately ourself, our unconscious mind, is actually doing it in this case, in the self-censorship, for the positive intention. So rather beginning to revolt against it, let's consider alternative ways where you can still meet the objective of what it's trying to do, which is usually a protective mechanism. So let's try to come up with alternative ways of being safe. And that is where you begin to learn strategies. You learn alternative evidence to prove the present situation to be not as bad, or to change the course of it to a more convenient assumption, belief, behavior, or even feeling, to be able to experience and yield the results that we want. But what I want you to know is that the things that we are stopping ourselves by, those blocks, those limitations, the things where you're holding back, or you're not speaking your purpose or your voice, you're not feeling it, you're not going for what you know you truly desire, because if you really wanted it enough, you'd do it, right? So that means there's just something in the way beneath the surface at an unconscious level most of the time, that if we can begin to re-educate, that we can learn and grow from, and actually wake up with an epiphany, actually, I'm just censoring myself from a better safety mechanism or a state of happiness where I could just begin to feel good for no reason other than for feeling good. So the first step is to really recognize what we're censoring ourselves by, how it manifests in our life. and the consequence if we carry on censoring. You see, if we know the kind of what we're censoring, we know how we're doing it, and even the why, the positive intention. But what would happen if we carry on censoring ourselves? How does that path really look for us? Is it just going to be a continued way of experiencing the negative things we dislike? What if there were alternative paths which we could begin to thrive in, which are also safe, which still apply in the same situations, but you just choose to react differently? We will no longer censor ourselves or suppress ourselves in being the most beautiful, authentic, powerful, confident, and competent you. So recognize, what is it that you're censoring yourself? How does that exist for you? Is it through your internal dialogue? Is it because of the past? Is it because of a feeling that you experience? Is it because of a belief that you have? Now, if you don't know that, then now is your opportunity to figure that out. You see, when you find the thing which is creating all the rest, like you're just dipping into the core, finding it, and then beginning to systematically let it go, and obviously you can get help with that. You can continue doing many different forms of therapy or coaching or hypnosis or programs and systems, even by yourself. But you've got to figure that out. Why we're censoring, how it shows up, what specifically is happening, and what if we change and what if we don't change? Because that will give you a form of structure. That clarity will then make you go, do you know what? This is why I've got to change. This is where I'm heading. There's what's going to happen to be where I want to be. So realize we can put our attention on the outside world as to why we can't have certain things. And some things are legitimate. There are forms of censorship in certain cultures, countries, in the present, in the past, and probably in the future, right? But if that is true, then we should at the very least remove the censorship of self. Because when we do, we can then come together with that alike mind, with the right purpose, the right way of being, that then we can change not only ourselves, but we change everyone around us. We begin to make movements. We start to create something special, not based on fear, not based on scarcity, but because we are just speaking the tune of our true voice. We're speaking the tune of what is truly right, without the illusionary conflicts that we're experiencing. And that means you become authentic. It means you start living the way you've always wanted. So I wanted to bring that to you today. I want you to put your attention on the things which need to change and realize that we are only censoring most of the time ourselves. And if we just let go of that, then we can start to not only experience the outcomes, the goals, the dreams in the very near future, or even now feeling good for no reason at all, but also the byproduct of that will mean we'll be making bigger waves throughout the world in the things that we do, in the ways that we are. And I think when we get there, then that's going to be amazing. But it all starts with us. So I hope you got value out of that just little thought. Hopefully it just kind of gives you a little bit of an insight or epiphany. Now, of course, if you want to be able to get help in terms of seeing if you're a good fit to work with us personally, to just let go of your issue, it's definitely not a long process. It is a very quick and efficient process. All you have to do is just go to josephclough.info/go, and then we as a team will be able to figure out where you are, what you want, and where you want to be, and then get to the strategy of how we can make that happen with you so you got someone on your side. So if that's of value, josephclough.info/go, and we look forward to speaking to you then. If not, we'll speak to you on a podcast coming out in the very near future. So have the most wonderful day, and I'll speak to you soon. Many thanks and goodbye.